Well, I think it's 12:30 and I can't delay it anymore, and people will be like, wow, she's on time, which is great. So I'm sure the shared ownership chat will be going, oh, she's on time for a change. Anyway, who's she? I'm Lisa Pickard. I have the best job in the world. I'm Chief Exec at Leeds and Yorkshire Housing. And I was asked to share my story with CIH Futures. And at first I was like, what can I share with people? What's interesting? Why me? And Adam Clark was amazing and said, we've all got a unique story to share. Yours will inspire people in a way nobody else's would. And this is the beauty of the human library. So hopefully this will form part of a library and it'll be of help to some people today or some people in the future. And if everyone just gets one little sound bite out of the next half an hour, then job done, hopefully. So, who am I? Told you my name. I'm Lisa. I'm 46. I know I don't look it. Actually, I did when I was doing the sound check with Jem before. I immediately went, look at my wrinkles. However, I am 46 and I became Chief Exec at 39, which I thought was quite young back then, but I'm hoping that some of the inspiration from today will see people coming through in those senior roles much younger than that. So there's a challenge to you all. So first of all, how did I get into housing? And we've had this debate on, oh, look, there's Gabby Wolfring, hi from next room. She might pop in and say hello, you never know. But how did I get into housing? We have this conversation that lots of people fall into housing. And I guess it was slightly different for me. I stumbled across it and then purposefully went hell for leather mission to work in the sector. So rewind a little bit. Went to school, as we all do. First person in our family to go to university back then, place at Cambridge. And 2 weeks ago I thought, that's not for me. And my working class background didn't think, well, can we afford it? So for some reason at 18, which is something I lost in my 20s, which I'll come back to later, I had some blag. And contacted a local building society when they had an advert out for graduate trainee and said, I'd like to come and work for you. And they asked me where my degree was, and I haven't got one. So I said, go away. I was like, a bit miffed about that. And there's about 6 more days till my degree started, and I saw that they hadn't appointed. So contacted them again. So give me a chance. I can do your graduate programme at 18 and see how that goes. So they did, which sometimes look and think, where did that confidence come from, and how could I have captured that a little bit more throughout my career? So I did my graduate programme in a building society, and when I was 20, I'd been a branch manager. I was leading people, and then at 21, I think I was, nearly 22, I was put in charge of arrears and repossessions. Interest rates, 15%, a really, really horrible environment. And you do what you do and you're thinking, well, I'm learning. And I had to go to an eviction in West Cumbria. And it didn't sit comfortably with me. The family had done nothing wrong. But mortgage interest rates of 15%, redundancies in West Cumbria, low employment rates. They really couldn't afford their home. So I went out to this eviction, 21, really quite inexperienced, and a husband, his wife, 3 children. And they'd been really resisting it. And when I got there, you could tell that something wasn't right. And the dad shot himself at the eviction. And that for me is a real changing point in my career and my outlook. And left at this point with a wonderful woman that I kept in contact with ever since, and her 3 children wondering what to do. And I took personal responsibility and thought, what am I going to do? So, against all of the rules, I don't know what the rules were back then, but I put them in my little blue Ford Escort, my first car, and drove them to the local authority in Carlisle I went to, because that's where I lived at the time, and thought, what do I do? And went to the local authority, and they mentioned this amazing word, housing associations, or housing and social housing. And I never heard of it, which is bizarre because I grew up in social housing, and my mum lived in a council house in Carlisle, which come out in my blog next week on Right to Buy, but did buy that house under Right to Buy. But I hadn't quite understood the impact that social housing on people's lives. And so that day, I absolutely made a decision I was going to work in housing. And it was the best decision I've ever made. Well, I've made a few good ones, but that was one of the best things that could have happened from a really awful situation. So 8 months later, I got my first job in housing. I upped it to the northeast, never been in the northeast, which is why I now call myself Honorary Geordie Girl, and went to work at what is now Places for People. It was North British Housing, and that's where my journey started. And I've never looked back. So I'm absolutely happy, in one sense, that I'm a values-based leader, and that personal narrative has stuck with me all the way through. That needing, and it's absolutely right, Ross, the kind of experience definitely has an effect on you. It changed who I was, but it made me become somebody that now when I look back at 46, it's about personal brand, and it's what you stand for. So how did I become a journey to a CEO, I was asked? Well, I didn't plan to be a CEO. In fact, I shouldn't say this because my exec team and others were going, really? I didn't have a plan. I still don't have a plan. I go where I think I can make most impact. I go where I'm inspired. I go where the people are up for change. I go where there are values and social purpose. So I started at North British and I rapidly moved through. I went to a housing association called Two Castles, and I got my first director job at 25. And what a baptism of fire, and that's where a lot of my learning comes from. So working with some great people, but in the northeast there were no directors under 30, so I think I was one of the first, and there were no female directors under 30. So it was an interesting environment, and from there I developed real resilience and character. And this is one of my lessons I think always say to everyone: be really clear about what you believe in and don't give up. Because there were times when I thought, I can't do this. I mean, I say to my 15-year-old Annie now, who's threatened me that her school friends are going to log on and at lunchtime, so I'm just watching that with care to see what 15-year-olds might say. But I always say there's no such thing as can't. But as a young leader, I worked in an environment where I had to constantly prove myself. And I think what is better, what I think is happening now, is there's less of that. I worked in a very male-dominant culture. Most people I worked with that were in that culture, they're gonna kill me now, but you can laugh. But play golf. I mean, I love sport, football, tennis, rugby, everything else. But golf, I watch it, but I didn't want to do my business in that way. And so I had to find a way to create a niche for myself and get listened to. And I worked at Tees Valley, which is now 13, and that was a great place for me to do that because there was challenge that needed dealt with. You know, we were working with increasing poverty and unemployment, and it gave me a chance. Connection. Is it back on?
Yes.
Hey, Gabby ran, you should have waved. Well, I think I just told you the answers to everything and you've missed it. I'm not really sure why I paused, which is unusual. I never pause for breath. So sorry about that. I'll pick up questions if I miss them through. But where I went from is first director role at 25, and which was at Tees Valley. And I look back and I think one of my lessons from that is I never really celebrated success as much as I should have done. I just thought there were little wins. So, you know, I look back and I was 27, I think, when we won the UK Housing Award for organisational change. And for me, that was just normal. But actually, it wasn't. It was quite groundbreaking. And some of the things that I did there as a leader are things that I've taken all the way through. And that's about listening, about engaging, about pulling on talent. And it's one of the questions as well that I was asked is about how you involve young leaders in change. And it's a no-brainer, you know, because my view is every day I'm doing something that's creating legacy or change, or that something that you'll look back and go, she did that, or they did that, or that happened. So there's a sense of responsibility. And so for me, involving doing most things in co-design really, but involving young people just not doing it is a no-brainer. I just thought Ellie May said absolute no-brainer. And if I was to think about a reason for that, I look at Brexit. This is not a political comment, I have to always be careful. But on the morning we woke up, I didn't go to sleep, but my daughter came in, then 14, and said, "We've voted to leave, haven't we?" And burst into tears. And I wasn't prepared for that. And she said, what people don't realise they've done is they've made decisions that affect future generations. I've always involved young people, but if I hadn't to that point, I mean, what that did is made me go, absolutely must involve young people, because the decisions we take day in, day out impact on them. So why, when you run a business, or why, so in my role as chief exec, why wouldn't I think about those future generations? When you are in any role as a project lead or being, influencing any change, why would you not want to understand the people that you are going to make those changes for? So I think that's absolutely why you involve young people. And I knew I'd go off. I've done a mind map. Look, here's my mind map. It gives me a minute to hide, which I'll put on, and a bit of a name check to Stephanie, who I'm doing some mentoring with. It's just inspirational. Everyone inspires me. And she wants me to write a blog about what I'm talking about, which is probably right, because I'm all over the place, scatterbrain. And I'll share my mind map later, because hopefully there's things in there that'll come out, but I've already gone off track. So back to Tees Valley, did the UK Housing Award, did lots of great stuff, then went to Places for People. And I think, is it right place, right time? No, it's about being in the right place that matters to you, and then right time. So I was at Places for People, and I put myself out there, but not in an ambitious way. Is Fizz on the map? I'm sure we can find you a place, Fizz, on the map. But when I got there, I thought, what matters to the people I worked with? What matters to me? What was my personal brand? What did I want to achieve? And I was working for the biggest housing association then, heading up the North East, and then became the East. And because I was true to myself and very passionate about people and customers, I moved into other roles. I was seconded down to Bristol, a bit of a firefight, go and sort all of the problems in a small subsidiary. And again, I could have gone in with a top-down style, or I went in with a, how can we sort this together? And that is very much the way that I do things. I'll come back, Jem, to the question, how important is that personal brand? It's one of my big messages to young people, is to really understand who you are, what you stand for, and use that for your career path. And therefore, if you're ambitious about your values and your personal brand, that feels comfortable to me. I grew up, I don't think I've ever grown up, but I grew up and progressed my career where, people thought when I was 25, ambitious was aggressive, and it's not. They thought ambitious meant I was going to go from here to here in a certain amount of time. Never figured in my mind. But ambition means having something that you're passionate about, having places where you want to go. Ambition doesn't necessarily mean a job title. It might mean that recognition of you are making that difference about things that matter to you. And that is one of my really inspired kind of quotes. I use it all the time, is the Gandhi quote about be the change you want to see in the world. There are times when I've just thought, I can't do it. There's times when I think, I'm not being listened to. There's times when I thought, I need to step out of the sector because it's not ready for somebody like me. And then you think, but unless you're in it and influencing it, how's that change going to happen? So you have to be that change you want to be in the world. So that's why I'm now happy to say I was ambitious, but it's not a negative, it's a positive thing. And I agree, Rachel, with you as well. There is an obsession with management, and I thought when people are saying to me, how do you become a chief exec? I think that's the wrong question. The question should always be with yourself, understanding who you are and what you want to achieve and what you want to be known for. If people look back, what would Lisa Pickard be known for? What would Rachel Dixon be known for, who asked that question? And that's your starting point, and that's about your legacy, and that's leadership. Leadership doesn't mean being a chief exec. Leadership and young leaders, for me, are about being clear about what you stand for and really moving and making that change. Right, I think I'm waffling. I always waffle. part of my journey to being a CEO, what was some of the lessons from that? One of the things that I had to ask myself is what happened to that 18-year-old that blagged herself into the building society without a degree? I have got a degree now, but I did it when I was working. But what happened to that person? And I think that it's about your personal confidence and your inner chimp. I had chimps all the time telling me, you can't do it, nobody be interested. Even this morning, my inner chimp got a grip of me saying, why... You haven't got an interesting story to tell. No one's going to be interested. And, I'm not really a typical CEO. And then you just stop and you've got to be confident with yourself. And you've got to not let the people around you nip at you. So a big piece of advice is surrounding yourself by positive people. That was one of the things that influenced me. I was surrounded by people as well, big learning point for me. And this, I think, lots of people I've been talking to, is there was a lack of role models for me. Which is why I now absolutely commit to it, which answers Fizz's question about am I a CAH chartered member. I absolutely am. I'm a fellow, I believe, but it wasn't the title that stuck with me. What I love about being a CIH member is that ability to bring people on. We should be proud of the work that we do. We work in a sector that does change people's lives, that gives people life chances in so many different ways. And therefore, being a member of the CIH, again, I use that phrase, is a no-brainer to me. It's part of something that I'm passionate about. But now as I have got, not an older leader, because I'm still young, but as I've moved up, I see it absolutely as my role to inspire others, to help people along. That's why I do the mentoring. So Steph will be pleased at me for that, for putting a little drop in on there. But we all got to where we are because other people inspired us or helped us along the way, and you've got to give something back. So that's absolutely why I am a member of the CIH. I think it's really important, but it creates networks. I'm still in touch with people I did my initial CIH qualification with. We did the Northeast branch, and there was just energy and excitement, and we went out there determined to change the world. And did we? Probably not, but I think we have made some changes. And but also what it does is when you're in your workplace, you can sometimes get swamped by that workplace. And one of my learning points is you've got to surround yourself with positive people. And if they're not in your workplace, you've got to go and find them. And the CIH and that membership and that being part of something creates that. And also it's that learning. I love to hear other people's views on things. So that ability to talk to other people in different parts of the country, and collaboration and networking is absolutely important. So yes, I am a member of the CIH. What was my greatest success? I haven't got a great success. I think if every day I go to bed and think, oh, I didn't do something good today, then that's a weakness in that day, really. And I don't really measure success in terms of me. My greatest success is where I see people develop. So there's loads of people going through and I think, oh, wow, how well they've done. And if I've just played a little part in inspiring them or giving confidence or that nudge that we all need when those chimps are having a go at us. And I lost the question before, so I'm going to have to put it on here in a moment. But somebody asked me about the Chimp Paradox. Absolutely have read it. And that is something that part of being a good leader and part of being inspiration, where do you get your inspiration from, is just that whole range, which is why I think I'm still a child, really. That questioning why, what next, that 8-year-old mentality is what I do. So reading, learning, and so on. What else was I asked to ask? I mean, big, great success for me, and I know this doesn't float everyone's boat, but that ability to be, for me, and this applies to lots of things, being a mum, I can say this now about Leeds and Yorkshire, but when I came here for the interview, we laugh, well, they laugh about it now, but one of the questions I was asked, which is outrageous, was how can you be a good mum and a chief exec? I was like, oh, it's like glass shattering moment. And at that point, I could have either said, I'm off, or, do you know what, I'm going to prove you wrong. And I did prove them wrong. And similarly, that how will you cope with the drive, Lisa? And 6 years in, I'm coping with the drive by yesterday when the snow beat me. So sometimes you've just got to prove people wrong and then celebrate those successes as well. Biggest regret I've had? I was asked that question. Who asked me that? I can't remember. I don't really do regrets because then they eat away at you. And a great coach said to me once, you spend too much time looking in the rearview mirror, you'll crash. And I think it's important to reflect and learn, but not spend too much on it. I think my biggest learning point has been that things happen for a reason, and sometimes just go with them and learn and see it as an opportunity and move on. So that's my last one on that one. I'm struggling with all this feedback coming in. Someone just said, ha ha ha, I'm always questioned on my commute. It's about personal responsibility. And one of the things that I say to people is, you make your own choices and people should respect that. And similarly, when you decide how you feel in the workplace, and sometimes when you're having to battle perceptions, and when you're dealing with negativity, you are responsible for how you feel, not how other people make you feel. So if people are making you feel negative, move away from that. Analyze what makes you feel good, what makes you a better person, what makes you a better leader, and do lots more of that. So I think that that was the commuter one, that was the mum one. Big top tip advice: just know who you are, know what makes you tick, and make sure you surround yourself with people that build on that positivity. I saw Gabby on there before about her opportunity coming into housing. That's going to lead me on to young leaders and what role that they play in organisations. And I think I said at the beginning, it's absolutely key that the Brexit stuff for me was a no-brainer. But how do young leaders play a role? For me, organisational change, you are changing that organisation for future. So it's about new and fresh ideas. It's about co-design with young people. How do I do that at Leeds in Yorkshire? Today is amazing. I don't think she's logged on yet, but she's going to look at it later. But we have a young person, Louise, who has been here 2 years and 2 weeks, who leaves us today. And it's a mixed story, but I am so phenomenally proud of her, because she came in as an intern. It's something we do here at Leeds in Yorkshire, just to stimulate our thinking as well as give young people opportunities. She came in as an intern in November 15. Did some stunning work for us on universal credit and the housing planning bill, and really helping us look at it from a very different perspective. And from there, which is something I guess is what we did with Gabby, who's on here today, is you identify talent, and you need leaders in the sector that go, yeah, there's some talent there, and give them an opportunity. So with Louise Venton, she came in as an intern for 13 weeks and did a fab piece of work. And the week before her internship was due to finish, we created a graduate role for her. That is one of the exciting things about being a chief exec, is you can make change happen, and you can make decisions, and you can bend rules. I know that won't sit well on the regulatory side, so just for the record, we don't bend those rules. But you can bend leadership, and you can bend and make your culture exactly where it needs to be. So we did give Louise a graduate role. She had 2 years programme. After the first one, she was fab, so she took on a community investment role, and in the summer last year, she became a neighbourhood management officer, and she's just fab. She just brings different perspective, and our customers love her, and she listens, and she learns, and she's ambitious, and she's inspired. And what she then does is she's leaving us, so she's taking all of that. So some people go, oh, that's not very good, but I think it's fab. So she's going to the NatFed. She's moving back down to London as a business development manager. And I am so proud. And I think that if 2 years here, we got stunning work out of her. And she's now going and using that somewhere else. But that's what about developing talent and supporting young leaders is about. And she's left a legacy here without any doubt. So, hi, Mandy. Yes, sorry you're late. And I'm missing some of these things. The iPad doesn't necessarily work that well. Got a fab with 3 stars from Fizz. What does a girl have to do to get 5 stars? I don't know. I need to up my game in the last 6 minutes. So what have I not covered? Glass ceiling. How do you get through the glass ceiling? I think the first thing is, don't set your own glass ceiling. I set mine. There's research that shows that, oh yeah, thank you, Evie, I got 5 stars. That you set your own glass ceiling, you set your own barriers. So for me, I kept thinking, I can't be a chief exec, I'm not ready. Can't do that, I'm not ready. Why not? And actually, you're your own worst enemy. So I think we need to identify glass ceiling, first of all, as confidence. And then secondly, it's about identifying your own glass ceiling. So glass ceiling isn't hierarchical all the time. It's about where you want to be and setting your own personal goals and smashing it. And a phrase I often use is that reach for the stars and land on your moon. You will do, and it's about identifying what each person's moon is. Big issue for me, and it is proven, and I didn't know about this until I read it, and I thought, gosh, this is so true. And I was asked the question about women and bringing more ethnicity into the sector. And I was thinking, there's loads of great women in our sector, but we should do so much more. Which is the bit that Ellie Mayo's just asked about. Could we do more to promote and support young people? Absolutely. But I'm just going to finish on the women one. But part of that, and I think this is a young person's one as well, is where do you fit in? Sometimes do you fit? And this research proved that 80% of women think that you can only apply for something if 80% of it you can do. And whereas this is very much a piece of research I'm paraphrasing, so it's not necessarily true for all people. But for men, it's 50. And so what is it about that 30% split? And why do we have to think we can do 80% of something before we can do it? Because surely if you can do 50%, you can learn the other. And if you get the right people, it's two things: you have to believe in yourself. Let's get rid of that 80% barrier. And on the other side, we should be just going for it. What's the worst that can happen? And they used it. I say this at home. I won't say it out loud, but there's the sugar honey iced tea happens. It's that. It does, and it's how you develop, how you build your resilience from that, how you learn from it. And unless you go for something, you'll never know. So I am conscious of time. I think young people, yes, Evie, you're right, 300% amazing, and that's something that I think we all have to believe in, utter confidence from yourself. So looking back, what advice would I give myself? Don't be what people want you to be. I think it's about being who you want to be. Absolutely, and this came true to me again recently, is you are responsible for who you are, you're responsible for how you feel. So if people are making you feel lower in confidence, then look at yourself and remove yourself from that situation and do something that you love. Understand what makes you tick. If I look back now and think back then, I was just going from day to day and trying to be the best person I could be, but I hadn't identified what best was for me, and I didn't really know totally what I was about. So that's what I think now. What advice is: be clear who I am and be really proud of that, and don't let anybody say you can't do or you're not good. If you think you are, you've got to go for it. Your glass ceiling is set by your own self. Have I covered most things? I don't know, I'm looking at questions. I've just got some great dialogue coming through. We have, let's have a look, a few more minutes. Any questions I've not answered so far that I can pick up on? I will share my mind map because it's a crazy mind. It's okay, we can push you further. Is that Fizz? What did I not answer the question on before? Challenges for 2018, I think you asked me, Fizz. I think it is being more of what you can be. For me, this year, very much in my own organisation, is a real passion around the customer side of things, being edgy. How do I continue in my role to make sure that I don't only just make, who will win Wimbledon? Ellie May. I'd love it to be Andy Murray, but I don't know about his hips. So I think that 2018, it'll be as good as we shape. And I'm rushing on that because Evie said, no, she didn't. Rachel said thoughts on the new housing minister. I did comment on that in Inside Housing. Big tip when you are in a position of chief exec is everyone fires bullets at you. That needs real resilience. So when I commented about the new housing minister, and I was really passionate about too much change and such a shame, and I really worry about the customer side on this one, the tenants, residents, whichever we call them. So I think that I think it's too much change. I love the fact that we have it now as a minister role, but I am not sure about... The jury's out. I watched our new minister on Newsnight, and I think we just need to see a little bit more coming through. I have a great roundtable meeting in a few weeks' time just to start thinking about customers and tenants and the green paper. The big thing for me now is how much listening really does take place. And I get frustrated as a sector sometimes when we sit back and go, oh no, if something else has happened, just grab an opportunity and run with it. So yes, the minister's changed. Well, let's step in and do something about it. So all that work with listening to tenants from all over the country, let's not leave it. Let's go and do something with it. So on with that at the moment. Traditional scone or scone. I put some rhymes up on Twitter. It's a scone for me, but you know what, if someone said it had to be a scone and I had to eat it now, I wouldn't say no because I'm starving, because I thought better not eat my lunch beforehand because my stomach would make funny noises. So, final bit, gosh, I've waffled. I will write a blog because I'm going to then go away and go, I should do a lot more. Final piece of advice for young leaders coming through, be yourself. Stay true to yourself. Big thing as well, when you come across those people going, you can't do it like that, it's always been done. Don't resist it, don't rebel, don't put yourself being negative, but positively challenge it and educate people, get people to think, so what if this, how would it do? Surround yourself with positive people and role models, and remember, you are creating future legacies. You are creating moments and memories and life chances, and never let anyone take that away from you. If you believe in it, show the passion on it, and just go for it and smash it, guys. Whatever I can do to try and inspire people to be the best they can be, I will do it day in, day out. But I hope when people watch this back, there is something, as Adam said, which is the beauty of the human library, that someone will get something out of it. So I hope that's it done. I don't know, because I didn't read the instructions, but I'm going to switch off and hopefully save it. I always make myself available, so if anyone's got any questions, I'll write the blog, I'll share my mind map, direct message me, and I will personally come back to you. But there are some fab people commenting on here, which gives me real optimism for future, and I can't wait to work with you all. Thanks, guys.